For anybody who's tuning in doesn't know what I'm talking about here, if you haven't watched my earlier video, what I'm running here is a Runcam V2 Nano on here with some 3D printed posts. I have a HDLRC F4 Zeus board in here, all-in-one Zeus board, as well as a AKK 20 by 20 millimeter VTX that's 25 to 800 with a nice antenna in the back. That's I'm trying to get this to focus on here. It's just a little lollipop antenna, this MMCX antenna. All right, YouTube, it's Flybar here. I was going to go ahead and get this video out earlier this week, but it seems that whenever I do a build, I take everything out of my cabinets and lay them on my desk, and it was a complete mess. It was a pigsty, so I had to go ahead and clean up. This is it. This is the Emax Tinyhawk Freestyle that I've been working on, and essentially it's no longer an Emax product. I couldn't use the motors on the 1103 motors that were on the original Emax Tinyhawk. And the reason why is because I had one motor that was bad in the rear. And so I put, these were actually meant for another build I was doing, but I decided, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and modify the frame and install these. These are 1104 7500 kV HDLRC flame motors, and it's beautiful purple, isn't it? I do have one ding on the back on this one, and the reason why is because in the original setup in Betaflight, it put it into I believe it was D shot, or was it one shot or D shot, whatever the one it was. It defaulted to the propellers don't spin up on when you arm it, and I wasn't used to that, and so I accidentally bumped the throttle, and it flew up, hit the metal on my chimney, and was actually a really good durability test. And not only hit the metal really hard, but it also came crashing down on some concrete really hard. And the only thing it did was just kind of ding up a rear motor right here, as you see right here. Just a little ding, just surface, nothing major. But yeah, everything is really tight in here. And I'm gonna go ahead and take off the canopy here. I kind of overdid it on this build. I guess I could have put in a real nano style, like a crazy pony 200 milliwatt VTX in it, but I didn't. I have one, and I was toying with the idea of actually installing this and taking this AKK out, but I got in here and whew, man, I did a really good job on all these weld points, and I really didn't want to muck around and destroy it, potentially destroy it. You know, sometimes if you go in there and modify something that's already perfect, you can run into a problem where, you know, it may not work out. So I decided to go ahead and just cut my losses and fly with the added weight on here, and so that's what I did. This is a Like again, this is a 20 by 20 VTX on here. It has smart audio. I am running a Runcam Nano V2 on here as well. And it does, this camera is really nice. And I do recommend that, even if you're gonna go ahead and install this camera in the original Tinyhawk, instead and replace it with the stock $5 cheap stock camera, that you'll be loving this camera, believe me. But this VTX is all the way from 25 milliwatt up to 800. Kind of overdone it because all I really need for flying around my trees, my property, because that's generally where I fly, and that's why I fly these little guys. Is all I needed was 200 milliwatt, but you know, I'll take it. I mean, it is what it is. I'll live with this. It has an MMCX connector on here, which I really like because these things are hard to pop out. They're not like the UFL connectors where you have to sometimes put the UFL connector up here and turn around and turn the VTX antenna out and hot glue it in, because the UFLs like to just tear off the board. This MMCX is really nice, but the thing about it, everything is really tight, as you see in here, the propellers and stuff. I got it where nothing will touch. I extended the plug out a little bit, the XT30 plug out a little bit. What I do is I lay, I'll show you in a second how I lay in my batteries. But yeah, this is the build, and some of the modifications I did have to make on this. And as you see here, I went ahead and best as I could put in some new post or some new holes in here so I can mount my posts in here. I probably have my posts a little bit too high than I want, but the thing about it, I also have my XM Plus underneath, which is, there's not a lot of room. So it's a good thing I did put the standoffs in here that I have in here right now, as you can see in here. Let me go ahead and try to focus here. I just used the stock standoffs that came on with the Freestyle, the original Freestyle, but I still have to figure out exactly where I'm going to route these, how I'm going to go ahead and keep them from coming up in the props. These Avon Rush props that came with the Freestyle work perfect on this particular build. And one thing I did notice is that these propellers on these 1104s have a tendency to want to spin off and fly up. And so I had to go ahead and get some M2 screws here and size them to screw them into my motors here. And these are really nice motors. So I have everything on here essentially geared up and ready to go for 3S if I do decide to fly off a 3S. But I think 2S is just, generally speaking, 2S is going to be good enough on this little Tinyhawk. But anyway, yeah, this is it. And the flight video that you see up, I was flying grandma speed on it, just kept it in a stability mode. It was basically a shakedown flight just to see how well it does, to see exactly what changes I need to make in beta flight. And if you look up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see I had a RSSI value of 0, and it constantly kept it on 0. So I'm going to be plugging in this back into beta flight soon, just to see exactly what I have to do in order to get my RSSI to appear in my goggles. I am running a little Fox ear antenna back here. This has an MMCX plug on it. I had to go ahead and curl it around and attach it with some zip ties on here. I originally had the motor ties attached with basically the same type of tape that came on that are on the Tinyhawk. Here's the Tinyhawk, the original Tinyhawk. See this tape right here? I do have some of that tape, and I had it on these motor wires, but I figured that I'll just go ahead and zip tie them instead, do it the lazy way. So I had some zip ties. This mount right here for this 3D printed mount that I bought seller on eBay. Let me go ahead and focus one more time on it. It's okay, but Do RC is correct. This does not hold up to a hard crash, because if you remember in early on when I was talking about when I had this improperly set up in beta flight, yeah, this right here cracked. It cracked in half, so I had to put a new mount on here. Kind of dinged up the top of my camera a little bit, not the lens itself, but just a surface ding on the metal portion of the lens, but cracked in half. So I went ahead, and I'll go ahead and link Do RC's video to my descriptions. If you want to go ahead and purchase some different type of mounts, he's going to go ahead and 3D print me up some mounts that'll fit over the original posts here. The only thing that I am concerned at is my tolerances on here with these new motors is really close. So I don't know if I'm gonna have to go ahead and do some dremeling to gouge out a little bit to get these so they're not touching. But thanks to Do RC, hope to see those soon. Again, I'll go ahead and link his video into this description if you want to go ahead and order some 3D printed mounts for your Tinyhawk Freestyle. Again, I got everything all set up. It's got here's a smart audio cable on the flight controller going into the flight controller. But yeah, it's really tight. Let me go ahead and get the canopy on, and I'll show you exactly what I have. And what I mean by what I have is this right here, and everything is all connected in here. Has a, well, I put that in there wrong. Actually, my VTX cable needs to go behind the post, not in front of the post, or it'll never work. But anyway, Let me fix that right now. It's bugging me. Yeah, on a tiny build like this, generally speaking, everything has a certain place where it needs to reside, or it's just not going to work. And now I got everything all set on here. Of course, you see here I have some industrial strength Velcro here, and I generally put the fuzzy end on the battery so they can just adhere a lot better than being strapped down by this. The strap, I couldn't put it in place in the middle, of course, because of the VTX. So it's up front, but it still works. But yeah, here it is. Oh yeah, one other thing here is these motors. I did have to drill out a third hole. Don't look at that. That was a mistake. But I had to go ahead and drill out a third hole on these on this frame. I couldn't attach all 4 motor attachments to it. 3 is going to be good enough. I'm gonna have to take off these screws later on and put some thread lock on there. But yeah, generally this is it. Don't be bothered about my flying. I know that you see there I'm in stability mode the whole way, and that's the way I normally fly for at least 3 packs, just to get to know the quadcopter. This is a build that I spent hours and hours on, and days getting the parts in. And some of the parts I did order, I did not get, so I had to go ahead and use what I had, and basically that VTX. So yeah, so don't worry about the stability mode in this video. But I was flying a 450 2S pack on it, and I did get 5 minutes of flight time, so that's not bad for what I have here. So I think it's really the flight controller is probably really efficient. To include these HGLRC motors are efficient. So that was just a 450 pack. I am going to fly a 6 and 650 pack just to see what the differences is going to be. But yeah, I mean, some of the things I did have to do again are to drill out for the 2020 configuration for the board. I have a XM Plus receiver in here. But let's go ahead and do a weight comparison between the original and this. Okay, because everything when you do a quadcopter, especially if you're new, everything's going to be in metric. So I'm going to do this in grams. Here's the original, and we're looking at 48 grams, which is really super light. And here's my modified new build, which is the HGLRC Freestyle. That's what I'll call it. It is now 74 grams. So you see it's gained weight. But the thing about it is I don't really necessarily mind having that extra weight up there. It still flies really well. So this is it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe. And thanks to another shout out to DoRC. Thanks brother for getting me some proper 3D printed mounts here from my camera. So we'll talk to you later. Bye.